What is up, Pitt fans? Thank you so much for tuning to Inside the Panthers on YouTube. My name is Stephen Thompson, coming at you with another Inside Pitt post-game report following that backyard brawl. Tough loss for the Panthers. Just got home. Well, actually, no, I got home a little while ago. It is 5:15 in the morning as I record this. I just spent a few hours writing about this game, thinking about it. I mean, look, that was brutal to watch in person. I mean, you had an appreciation for, I think, the spectacle and the event that it was and the cultural significance that it had, but as far as football goes, that was not very entertaining. That was not aesthetically pleasing football. It wasn't even sloppy in a fun way, and maybe I'm just coming at that from the Pip side of things, but man, that doesn't feel good to lose that way. You know, you lose like West Virginia did last year, in a great game that was back and forth and entertaining, and you lose on a little bit of a freak play. That's one thing, but it, it's even hard to say that that Pitt got super outplayed in this game. Like I don't think West Virginia played very well. We'll get into that in a minute. I'm like I said, it's early in the morning, late at night. One of those things. It's the wee hours of the morning, and I've been up for a while, so I just kind of want to riff about this game a little bit, talk about it, whatever first kind of comes to my head. So I guess I can start there. West Virginia, I don't think played particularly well. I think they managed the game. They took what Pitt gave them, but Pitt gave them at the very least 10 points off of turnovers. And those turnovers can be almost directly attributed. Those points off of those turnovers can be almost directly attributed to Phil Dracovic. Pat Narduzzi said it probably better than anyone in his post-game press conference. They took 4 plays to go 17 yards, and they got 10 points off of it. That you know, both of those off of Jurkovic's turnovers. That just can't happen. Like, they were bad decisions too. I mean, it's I think it's just very hard to look at this game and to have watched it, even looking at the box score, like, you can't look at that and not put the vast majority of the blame on Phil Jurkovec. It's almost directly attributable to him and his mistakes. This was one of the worst performances that I've seen from a Pitt quarterback in a long time. Like, it's up there with Kenny Pickett 8 yards in an ACC championship game. He was just as bad in that that blowout loss to Penn State. But the thing about that is that was Kenny's first year as full year as a starter, and those losses were to good teams. I mean, Penn State was top 15 at the time. I think they climbed even higher over the rest of that year into the top 10, and then Clemson, I'm pretty sure, won the national championship that year that they played him in the ACC championship game. And this was to a West Virginia team that had their coach on the ropes. You know, it's one of the worst passing defenses in the country, and they have been for a long time. And Jurkovec just wasn't able to make anything of it. He threw into double and triple. There was his second interception. There were approximately 5 defensive backs around 2 Pitt receivers, and he let that ball fly. It's just the decision making was dubious at best. I thought he wasn't looking at receivers who were wide open. It was just a brutal top to down performance from him, and then at a certain point, you start to realize that this kind of transcends Jurkovec now. The longer he stayed in that game, the more you have to put it on Narduzzi and Cignetti and the coaching staff for leaving him in there and for defending him so vehemently in the post-game press conference, just continuing to say that we have confidence in Phil. There isn't even a modicum of criticism for Phil after that game, which I cannot wrap my head around. I don't understand how you can look at people with a straight face and say anything other than and I'm not even asking for Narduzzi to completely rip the kid, because I understand he wants to back his guy and try to give him some confidence that Phil is clearly lacking right now, and maybe he still sees something in him, but I don't think it'd be completely out of line for Narduzzi to at least say, you know, when he talked about the turnovers and the interceptions in his postgame, he talked about them as if they just kind of happened, that they didn't really have a cause. They just kind of existed. They were passive. They were not attributable to anyone. He did not mention Dracovic and interceptions in the same sentence, in the same answer to a question. It was it was a little bizarre how these turnovers that were crucial plays in the game that I would say decided the game. They were the only difference in the game. Like they gained both teams gained the same amount of yards, but one team didn't only turn the ball over once. The other team turned the ball over 3 times. And yeah, and in the post game, it was it was Narduzzi trying to turn it around in the media and saying, you guys always wanna pull a quick trigger on a guy, but I don't know. I don't what I just don't I didn't see any reasons for optimism from Drakovic's play, and I just didn't understand why there wasn't even room to say, "Yeah, Phil did not play well today. We're gonna look at this tape and determine if he is the best guy for us moving forward. We have confidence in him, but we need to see more." Wha that's a completely reasonable thing, and I think Phil more than anyone would understand why that's what the coaching staff feels. Like, I don't know, it's not out of line at all. You don't need to bench him immediately, I guess, but I'm sorry, this is back-to-back weeks where he's been one of, if not the biggest reasons why you've lost a game to a team that, on paper, you're probably better than, you know? Like, West Virginia, definitely. I think Pitt is more talented than them, and I'll get to that in a minute because I thought this wasn't complete, of a beatdown as it might have felt when you were watching that game because, I can tell you at least watching it from kind of a Pitt perspective, it felt a little deflating. But Cincinnati, I also thought that they were maybe better than they were favored by like a full touchdown in that game, and Cincinnati just lost to Miami, Ohio tonight. They lost to a MAC team. What are we doing? Um, yeah, but I mean, so it was just impossible for me to look at that game and think anything other than this is pretty squarely on Phil Dracovich's shoulders, and we have to be able to say that. We have to be able to talk about that and address that openly that he didn't play well. It was a little more believable last week when we talked about the protection and the defense put them in a bad spot, putting them down early. But yeah, this was almost all on Dracovic. He wasn't asked to do much and didn't do much with that. So, but like I said, I mean, it wasn't all negatives. I thought the defense was really good. After getting kind of, I wouldn't say embarrassed, but they got run over a little bit against Cincinnati, and they definitely turned that around against a team that's really good at running the football, against an offensive line that's really good. We talked about that all week. These guys really stood up, and they bowed up, and they made some big plays, and they were the reason that the Panthers were still in this game, kind of well into the 4th quarter until things got kind of out of hand. So I think you give credit to them. I think you give credit to the special teams too. They executed when they were called upon, blocked a punt, made both the field goals. I thought kickoff and punt coverage was pretty good too. And that's part of what makes this loss so disappointing too is that the cupboard is not completely bare for Pitt. Like the offense, yeah, it doesn't look good, but there's plenty of stuff here. Like there's plenty of talent on this team. Donovan McMillan getting his first start, he was awesome. 18 tackles, ridiculous. He was all over the field. Shane Simon, I thought, played a really good game. Bam Brema, I thought, was really good too. There's some young guys too, like Braylon Lovelace recovered that block punt. Kyle Lewis continues to look really good. Dayon Hayes, I think, is about as good as advertised. He's really not racking up those sack numbers that I expected him to, but these first 2 games have been a lot of running, so that doesn't exactly fit his skill set perfectly well. But I think he's been good too. Uh, there's a lot there, and unfortunately, in this instance got kind of thrown away because of a poor offensive performance. And I did do want to go back to the offense for 1 second because also where's Rodney Hammond, man? Why he has 25 total touches this season. That's just 3 more than Daniel Carter, and it's 4 more than Tebow Flemister. This is the most talented running back on the roster, and he has to fight for carries. I mean, we watched that first drive, and it was all Rodney Hammond, man. He drove them all the way down there, and it ended in points. It was one of 2 drives that they scored on all night, and after that, he's gotta wait a whole 'nother quarter before he can get his next touches. I don't get that. I don't get that at all. Um, you know, Narduzzi said it's to keep the running backs fresh. He likes to rotate them, but what are you keeping them fresh for? Man, like, you're not running him for the rest of the game. There's I get it. You don't wanna run him down when he's got a long season in front of him, but you weren't afraid to run Izzy a lot, and he was your top back last year. What's different now? What about Rodney makes him incapable of taking on this challenge and being a top tailback and taking on the workload of a top tailback? No offense to I thought Flemister played well too, but, and Daniel Carter did not have a good game either, but, I just don't understand why these guys continue to earn opportunities that I think should be going to Hammond. Hammond's your most talented running back. He's the top guy on your depth chart, I think for a reason, but he's not getting treated like one. Um, but yeah, I mean, there were some perplexing personnel decisions in this game that I think really cost him. Like Carter being in on third downs all the time and just not, coming up with necessary catches, not being able to hit holes the way that Hammond could. I think there are roles for all three of those running backs on this team, but uh, Hammond's got to be a workhorse, and that's something that they talked about this week is something that they wanted to do, and that just not is not how it played out. So, with that, I'm gonna head out of here. Those are really my biggest thoughts on this game. So I'm gonna wrap it up, try to get some sleep. And then I'll be back on Monday. We'll talk to Pat Narduzzi again after he's watched the tape and hopefully get some more details on what he saw from that game. So thanks again for tuning to Inside the Panthers on YouTube. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to us. That's youtube.com/at Inside the Panthers. And make sure to follow all of our reporting from the rest of the regular season as we get ready for ACC play. North Carolina comes to town next week. That should be a top 20 team, another big opportunity for the Panthers to turn this season around and get rid of this bad taste in their mouths. So make sure you follow us as we go through that. Like I said, I'm headed out of here. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you next time.